Hi, Nick here at the NSBRC in our brand new Retrofit Zone exhibit. We're very proud to be opening this to the public today. We've got an official launch event in November, but you can sneak in and have a look sooner, so why not come and check it out. But what's it all about, right? So if you're watching this channel, you're probably on board with retrofit and why that's important already. The point of this exhibit here is really to help you navigate how are you going to do that? Where would you even start? And why might that be different depending on the way you use energy, the type of home, the age of home that you have, and really all the options that you have that might be driven by your priorities. So what we really wanted to help people understand here is whether you've got different types or ages of properties, or maybe different ways that you use your home, different things that are important to you, how might that guide some of your decisions and the solutions you choose to apply? So for example here, one of our 3 period accurate properties that we've built as much as we can within this distribution centre in this controlled environment is this Victorian solid brick home where we've chosen to show an external wall insulation system. And actually something we've applied across all of the elements of this exhibit is to peel back the layers so you can see the nice finish and what that'll look like, the finished product. But actually layer by layer, you can see how that's going to work and how that all works together, going all the way back to the raw substrate behind. And actually here we've shown 2 different examples of 2 fabrics that you might use. So we've got wood fibre or we've got rock wool, so natural fabrics that you might choose to use. And actually something that was a really interesting thing to experiment with here was where we've got our lovely triple glazing. So, you know, we're going really high end on some of the air tightness and getting our U values down as low as possible. Actually what we've wanted to show here is that you've got some choices to make around where you might want to position that. So actually it's really going to be thermally efficient if you can bring that forward and wrap that into the insulation layer. But actually what you've got to do that is perhaps remove some original detailing and things like that, so the sills had to be cut off. You might not want to do that, and actually this is still a brilliant way to do it, to set it back into the masonry. So lots of great examples like that. Actually on the top of this one I'd like to draw your attention to the solar slate, which you could blink and miss as well. The idea being that that's going to disappear into the period of the home. So throughout the exhibit we've got lots of really useful information points that help you make sense of what it is that you're looking at and help you guide you through and navigate the journey. And actually you could probably spend all day here reading these, and maybe more than once, but actually just starting with a little bit of who have we worked with, who's collaborated with us, because this is not just us working on this. We've got lots of minds and lots of hands that have made this happen. But actually, why is retrofit important, and what's this exhibit about, and how to get the most out of it? Because we're going to be really honest, you're not going to come and get all the answers. It's not that simple, but you're going to come away from this as an introduction, and you'll leave with all the right questions to make your project a success. We also talk a lot about whole home retrofit, which is talked about here as well. So these are kind of some of our guiding principles before we even get into anything. So you have to walk past these to get to anything else. We've also really deliberately led with fabric. So all of the stuff you're going to see at the front of this exhibit is all about fabric, encouraging fabric first, and then we get to our kind of tech gadgets as we get a bit further through. So come and have a look. So here's our oldest property. So this is in the style of an old Cotswold stone cottage, and actually forgive us for maybe the walls not being twice as thick as they are, but we wanted to leave enough floor space for you to come in and have a look at this. But I think the principles stand, and this is an example of internal wall insulation. And now what we're trying to be really cautious about here is not saying if you have a solid stone wall you must have internal wall insulation, just as where we showed external wall insulation on the solid brick wall. Again, it's not quite that simple, but this is where we've chosen to show some of the examples. And perhaps if you've got a beautiful old building like this, you might struggle a bit more with the planning permission, and maybe external wall insulation might not be an option for you. So this is something that is a really great solution that you can do internally, and actually by the time you get to the finish, you don't even know that it's happened. You've maybe lost a little bit of floor space, and that's where it's all about getting the thickness right, trading off kind of how low do you want to go on your U values versus how much floor space can you give and how much do you want to spend. So really great examples here, and we also start to talk about the importance of ventilation as soon as you start decreasing that U value and increasing your air tightness. If you want to have a look up above me, we've actually got a couple of these examples here about talking about loft insulation as well. So there's more than one way to do any of this stuff, right? So actually in two of these loft sections, we've got 2 very different ways that you can think about insulating. And if we spin around here as well, where you will neatly see a very different loft insulation system behind me, you'll actually see a little bit of the back of the solar panels as well. You might notice there's no felt there. A little bit of that's coming, so don't worry, we haven't forgotten, but we're really keen for you to be able to see the back of the solar slate. This is a really great detail here. We're actually within each of these period accurate houses, we've shown the evolution of what floors and walls you might be likely to find. But this is the one where there's a real opportunity. So actually, if you've got suspended timber floors, like you might have in this kind of Victorian era property, or even things a little bit more recent, actually you've got opportunity there to go a bit further on your air tightness and insulation, whilst being really thoughtful about keeping a good flow of ventilation whilst doing that. So let's have a look, last but not least, at our cavity wall property. So this is a stunning 1980s was new build, very similar to my own home, I may add. And actually, if you have a look up, this is where we've chosen to show, rather than showing another pitched roof, because I think we've done that a little bit on the other two, many people might have an extension that looks a bit like this actually, and this is why we've shown the flat roof here. And again, this offers an opportunity to really stop some heat loss in the way that you're dealing with this. So it's a great opportunity to think about what are the opportunities and the dangers with cavity walls. So actually, if you're thinking about whether you do want to put something between these gaps, how cautious do you need to be and whether you should do that or not? So again, equipping you with all the right questions, lots of stuff to think about here. We've actually left the original glazing original. I'm going to put in inverted commas because none of this is original. It's all been built very, very recently by a hard-working team. But we really wanted to just show the difference, and we've got some great information showing actually what sort of difference in performance are you going to get between double glazing and triple glazing. Because for some people that investment's truly worth it, and for others maybe it is a step too far and it's not something you need to spend on. Okay, so as we get to the back wall here, this is where we get to some of the techie stuff and some of the gadgets. So actually we're talking here about generating heat and using energy, and actually then how are we distributing that around the home, and also thinking about ventilation as well. So perhaps slightly provocatively here, but we've really tried to draw people's attention a little bit by talking about, okay, brilliant, you can get a grant for £7,500 to ditch your boiler and switch away to something more renewable and think about an air source or maybe even ground source heat pump if that's suitable for you. But is it worth it? Is it right for you? And actually, I think it's getting people to understand that just making that switch, it's not that simple, and that isn't just going to be a one-size-fits-all approach. So some of the information here really helps you think about, do you have space for this? Do you have space for what comes with this? Because you're going to need some space, you're going to need a plant area, you're actually going to be perhaps reverting back to what feels like a previous era for some of us, where we would have had airing cupboards, and you've got that nice warm cupboard where you've got to keep keep your hot water cylinder, but actually you need to think about distributing the heat differently. Now some of us might stick with our existing radiator heating system, and actually perhaps if you're testing kind of a lower flow temperature from your boiler, that might give you a good idea of whether you're going to be suitable for an air source heat pump as you are, because you're not going to necessarily get the same levels of heat from this as you might from a boiler, but if you use it the right way, then it's going to be a brilliant solution. So here we've got some demonstration of underfloor heating systems and how they might be suitable for different types of floors. So it's, again, not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach. The reason we've given the space here to talk about underfloor heating, because of course there's more than one way to do this. You might want to add more radiators to your system, you might want to enlarge your radiators, you might even want to think about fan-assisted radiators as options. But what's great about underfloor heating, if your budget can stretch to it and your project is suitable, actually you can be distributing heat across a wider surface area, and actually that means that where your water that's coming out of your heat pump through your hot water cylinder is actually going to be more like maybe 40 degrees rather than 60 that we're used to. Actually we need a more efficient distribution method, and we need more efficient habits as well. So perhaps it's a little bit about not getting home from work and blasting the heating. It's about trying to keep a bit more of a constant temperature. So it's all about habits and the way that we're using this. So you might hear from some people about, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You might hear from some people, oh, it's a flash in the pan. Actually, the truth is somewhere in the middle, and you need to make the adjustments to make it work for you. Finally, here I wanted to talk a little bit about the guidance and next steps section. So this is our opportunity for really anything that we haven't had time to talk about or had space to talk about elsewhere in the exhibit, and perhaps things that are a bit more detailed or a bit more low percentage. They might not affect as many people, but they'll be important for the people that they do affect. So loads of really great stuff here to make sure that you're not hitting any dead ends. So we're talking about how can you go and get a retrofit survey and making sure that actually you're getting advice that is specific to your own home rather than our archetypes we're thinking about here and being more general. Talking about low cost solutions, because some people actually will want to have projects that aren't going to be a deep retrofit, and what can you do for less money that's going to make your home more efficient and reduce your bills. We're talking about planning permission, please don't go too far without thinking about this, because you're going to come unstuck. We're talking about funding your project. How are you going to make this happen? And how are you going to make sure that you can afford to do all of this? Some really great things about green skills, about home automation, and also some further reading just to make sure that if you're getting thrown any jargon your way, that you know what you're talking about. Which leads me on to our jargon buster here. So this is where it gets a bit geeky, and I kind of love this bit. So this plinth here is an opportunity for us to get a little bit into some of the terms that you're going to hear about. So you're going to be talking to your professionals in your project, and you're going to hear about things like kilowatt hour, peak heat load, space heating demand, air tightness, all this stuff, U values. You need to understand a little bit of that language and what that means. This is your entry point into understanding that. And what we've got on the flip side of here that accompanies this very neatly is actually talking about retrofit standards. And we've got my good friend Rob, who's done some great video content for us to help explain some of this as well, alongside some of our sponsors. But actually what we've got is talking about building regulations and actually what standards must you meet, which ones are not an option. And we're also talking about some of those optional standards, performance-based standards that you might choose to put on your own project. So if you want to go to that nth degree, do you want to go all the way through to the passive house NFIT standard, or actually somewhere in the middle? Do you want to go to higher than building reg standard, but not quite all that way, and go with AECB carbon light? How do you even know the answer to that question? Well, you start having a look here, and that's going to help you start understanding what that might mean for your project. So where we showed the internal wall insulation build-up within our solid stone wall, actually we've got 3 really handy examples here of what that same build-up might look like delivered at different thicknesses. And the idea of this part of the exhibit is to help you understand how thick do you need to go to actually start making a difference to that crucial U value. And like I said in the jargon buster, if you don't know what U value means, don't worry, you can come and understand that here a little bit. But it's talking a little bit about how much heat are you stopping from escaping. So you want to get that number as low as you can, but you need to think about how much floor space are you losing. Do you want to go all this way and have this big double stacked 2 big slabs of this here? Or actually, is it much more comfortable for you to go somewhere a bit smaller? And actually it's finding that sweet spot for you is really important. Thanks for having a look around our brand new exhibit. We're really proud of the Retrofit Zone, and we would love you to come down to the NSBRC and have a look for yourselves, have a chat with us and all our partners that have been involved. But in summary, what you're going to find here really is a really strong introduction to your retrofit journey. If you're not exactly sure where to start, or even if you do know where to start and you're thinking about some of the detail, it's going to help you make decisions based on what are your priorities, what are the challenges and limitations that might come with the type of property you're looking at, and actually how can you put all of that together with a really holistic approach, a whole home approach, and make the right decisions and be equipped with the right questions as well as the right answers.